Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to step into some white history. America's first war on drugs. Rare photos show young women and suavely dressed men in zombie state that sparked panic about the opium trade. Now, I'm going to show you pictures as primarily Asians and whites reclining on bunk beds while sucking on opium pipes. These haunting photos provide a rare glimpse into life in America's 19th century opium dens that prompted the country's first crackdown on drugs. Established by the Chinese and arriving in the US via ships. The first opium dens sprung up in San Francisco's Chinatown during the 1840s and 1850s and were soon being used by people from all walks of society. Well, it wasn't slaves because our people were out in the fields doing all that back-breaking work. Okay, so we know which people were doing all of the drugging, and it's amazing how all of the fentanyl and opioids that are coming to the country now are being shipped from China. And all of the junkies here are primarily the Caucasoids. Things, ladies and gentlemen, sometimes never change. Never change. Now, I want you to take notice, we were out in the slave fields working our asses off. And this is what some of the white people in America were doing. But they want to insist that they were not the lazy ones. We are. Yeah, right. The opium rush was at its most prevalent during the 1880s and 1890s, which coincide with the rise of the temperance movement. Its popularity eventually resulted in a string of legislative measures being introduced to try and stamp out the addictive crave, including the Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906 and Smoking Opium Exclusion Act in 1909. All right, y'all, I'm going to do this with a straight face. And by the way, thank you, Watch Your Move. I got this from you, one of my subscribers. Okay, here's a picture, and you can see this person all strung out here, this person sucking on an opium pipe. All right, and you see the Asian man. And these were the ones that were all zombied out on opium. Again, while Black people were going through Jim Crow, this is what the hardworking white people in America were doing. Opium den spread from west to east, and the drug was increasingly used by the upper and middle classes. And you see pictured people inside a den in Chinatown, New York, 1925. White people working hard. Working hard. You look at them all zombified. These are white people working hard at being high. Working hard at being high, because they sure weren't working hard out here busting their asses like Black people were. This is what they call hard work, ladies and gentlemen. Although both men and women smoked the drug in opium dens, women receive poorer qualities pipes because the Chinese thought that if a woman used a good quality pipe, it became worthless and it was likely to split. Okay. So look at these white women, y'all. Look at them all strung out. Look just like the women in 2017, all strung out on heroin, laid out on the street, being revived with Narcan. Okay, we see some Asians in this picture. First, the Chinese smoked the drug, and then the Anglo-American underworld, followed by men and women in the middle and upper classes before finally reaching children in the community. Oh, how the truth just comes out and out and out. Chinese immigrants came to the United States in the early mid 19th century to work for railroads and the gold rush. They brought the habit of opium smoking and the idea of opium dens with them. In 1840, New Englanders brought 24,000 pounds of opium into the U.S. This caught the attention of U.S. Customs, which promptly put a duty-free on the import. Opium could be purchased in 5 ounces, 10, so they had little tins with 5 ounces in it for around $8, and typically bought at Chinese merchant shops. Opium dens provided bunks and rugs to relax while smoking, as well as equipment if a person did not possess their own. The drug was easily accessible in San Francisco and California, even when they outlawed the substance in 1878 and 1881, respectively. And you see this little Chinese man holding a cat in San Francisco in an opium den, sucking on his little opium pipe. Okay, here's some more Asians in opium dens in San Francisco. The opium pipe was made in 2 parts, a stem made from bamboo and a bowl that was attached to the upper far end of the pipe. A needle was also needed to prepare the opium, a lamp to heat the opium pellet, and an instrument to clean the bowl of the pipe. But these groups want to talk about Black people being lazy, but there is nothing more lazier than watching people suck down drugs. During the Reconstruction period, Black people were sharecropping. Yes, ladies and gentlemen, sharecropping and getting ripped off. And these people were sucking down drugs, doing what they do best: nothing. By the middle of the 19th century, recreational opiate use was becoming more common. The press commended Chinese opium dens and claimed Chinese men were using opium to lure white women into having sex. Let me tell you something. Nobody got to lure your women. They didn't have to lure them back then and don't have to lure them today. They are a willing participant to having sex with Black men, horses, dogs, donkeys, or anything else they can get their hands on. Okay, willing participants. Remember that. All right, here we go. White woman, white man, both strung out on opium. Look at them right here. And then you have these 2 white women in bunk beds, all strung out on opium. No, nobody got to do anything to your woman. She is a willing participant in drugs and sex. Chinese men lure women to the opium den with the promise of food. Imports of opium increased around 113,000 pounds in the 1840s and 1.5 million pounds in 1909. Ladies and gentlemen, here's white people working hard. And again, here's more white women and looks like an Asian man. You never know. In order to smoke opium, a person needed the drug, numerous pieces of equipment, and a place to recline while indulging in the habit. These hardworking white people is just overwhelming. By that time, it had also spread east into New York, Chicago, St. Louis, and New Orleans. And the heights of its popularity was at the end of the 19th century. Opium dens were now increasingly frequented by men and women from the middle and upper classes. The undercover reporter for the Examiner in 1882 described how she witnessed two white girls, neither of whom were over 17 years of age, dressed as though they were going to a Sunday picnic in an opium den in San Francisco. They probably was lying just to get there and saying, "Mommy, we're going to a picnic," and they really went to an opium den. That sounds like something y'all would do. To crack down on the additive bait habit. To crack down on the addictive habit, the federal government under Theodore Roosevelt uh, passed a Pure Food and Drug Act in 1906, which required any dangerous or addictive drug to appear on the label of products. So you can buy it just as long as it had a label on it saying, for hardworking white people, opium. 3 years later, the Smoking Opium Exclusion Act banned the importation of opiates used purely for recreational use. But it's coming to the country all the time in 2017. Yay! However, it's unclear if this act was part of anti-Chinese backlash, as it was thought Chinese men luring white women to have sex in opium dens. Again, let me repeat this one more time. Nobody's got to lure a white woman nowhere to have sex. She willingly flies to Africa, Jamaica, and all of the islands where there are black men to have sex. She has, look on YouTube, she has sex with dogs. She has sex with horses. I guess the next thing you're going to say is the horse raped your woman. These things are just not happening. It's not happening. They are willing participants. Okay, willing. Just like they come together and have their girlfriend trips and go to black places to have sex with black men, and then they come home to their white husbands and boyfriends and said, "Oh, we just had a girlfriend trip. It was just the girls getting together." See, us black people, we know what the girlfriend trips are. Okay. You might be still fooled by the girlfriend trip. We know what they are. That act was followed by the Harrison Narcotics Tax Act in 1914, which regulated and taxed the production, importation, and distribution of opiates and cocoa products. Authorities believe the opium dens were problems associated with the Chinese. Of course, it couldn't possibly be any of the whites that went there. It was just the Chinese. You see, they didn't take any responsibility back in 1914 either, ladies and gentlemen. As late as the 1950s, drug control officials pinned the blame on China for illicit importation of other opiates, such as heroin, into the US. See, they're not taking no responsibility. Everything's the Chinese fault. I guess because the drug addiction is going strong in America in 2017, It's the Mexicans' fault. It's the Chinese fault. It's the Dominicans' fault. It's the Puerto Ricans' fault. It's everybody's damn fault. It's black people's fault. Hell, let's throw ourselves in there. It's not their fault. It's people. They're too much. You can see they took no responsibility then, and they take none now. Look at all these strung out women in the opium den. Like I said, these women are willing participants. You ain't got to lure none of them anywhere. They lure themselves to black men every day. Okay? They lure themselves to a black man every day. In order to smoke opium, a person need the drug, numerous piece of equipment, and a place to recline while indulging in the habit. Look at all these hardworking white people. Yes, yes, look what they were doing. And black people at the same time were sharecropping. And and look at what they were doing with their time. Y'all just some hardworking people. Okay, San Francisco became the first city in the US which tried and failed to eliminate drug use through law enforcement when they passed the 1875 ordinance to ban opium dens. And this is an opium den in 1890. These people are working so hard in America. They just working their butts off. working their asses off and getting high. Opium was available to buy in 5-ounce tins around $8. So back then they had $8 to spend, which was a lot of money back then, by the way. Opium imports hit their peak in the 1890s. Well, it didn't reach their peak in 2017 yet. Still going strong. Established by and for Chinese, the first opium dens in the U.S. appeared in San Francisco's Chinatown. And as you can see from the photos, the white people gladly went to Chinatown to get their high on back then, working hard at getting high, because they weren't working hard at doing no real work. Working hard at getting high. She got her face down in the pillow. She's so damn high. Working hard at getting high. Just like they're working hard on getting high now. That's about the only hard work you see them doing in the US these days. Working hard to get high. Look at this shit, man. Woo, these devils are something else. Got a hell of a lot of nerve. This is what your ancestors were doing. Unbelievable. Let me go back to this picture. This is an avatar, y'all. This is an avatar. Please tell me what you think about this white history in time in the comment section. Please leave your comment and subscribe. And if you can donate to my channel, please do. Peace, family. This was a fun share.